the minute that you sense that fear is coming on, or you have a greater sense that you're fearful of something, for every action, a reaction. So immediately respond to whatever it is that you fear, because it has a tendency to manifest and grow over time.
Welcome to One More Thing, a podcast like no other. I'm Kyle Thompson, coach, speaker, and turnaround artist, driven by enthusiasm and fueled by passion in everything I do.
And I'm Tori Barker, creative engineer and marketing guru. You're about to experience a podcast that will challenge you to think, reflect, laugh, and grow.
Come along with us as we share stories that will inspire you to be the best version of you.
It's all about embracing change and the power of transformation.
Know we believe in you. We've got your back. You've got this.
All that we ask of you is to show up with an open mind and an enthusiastic heart.
So sit down, buckle up, and hold on.
Today we're going to talk about the second part in our 3-part series, which is clarity. And we can't talk about clarity until we go back and talk a little bit about reflection. So Kyle, go ahead and reflect on the reflection.
I'm going to reflect on the reflections of reflecting for all of you. So the reflection work, as we talked about in our first segment, is really essential because it, in essence, will identify and pinpoint exactly where you need clarity. And as I said, some of those things in terms of reflection might feel painful because you're stepping through what has probably prohibited you from growth or prohibited you from being who you really were intended to be or wanted to be because of something that happened. So there's going to be, in a sense, through the clarity, a course correction.
Yes.
And because of that, I want you to recognize as well, in that reflection, I do want you to revisit, or we want you to revisit, places and times and people who were instrumental in the good, and then maybe those that might have prevented you from being everything that you were meant to be. That's really important part of that. But when you do that, you're able to immediately identify why it is that you feel that way. What was it that brought you to that place? Who were the players? And oftentimes, that they aren't that significant. I was telling Tori before we started this, have you ever noticed, and I think there's a quote, that all the haters are doing worse than you?
Yeah.
It's like they're just pulling you down. And if you had that as an image in your mind, they're like little demons just pulling on you to try to prevent you from staying afloat and or flying. As long as they can keep you in their realm, which is way down here versus the stratosphere where you belong, they're good. Yeah. But you have to remember that those people that prevent you and don't support you or celebrate you are the people that have to go. That reflection allows you to do that.
Absolutely.
Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think, like you said, reflection is key to moving forward and identifying the clarity that you need to achieve those goals and where you want to go in your future.
Listen, guys, we all face it. We all go through it. I know I get a lot of people who always say, I don't think you have a bad day. Go through chemo and radiation and then we'll talk, or get a cancer diagnosis and then we'll talk. But it really is in fact up to you, and it has to be significant enough that you want to change the course of your life. And I know that sounds grand and big and extreme, but don't you deserve a grand and big extreme existence within whatever realm that is that you're in? You don't have to fill a room when you come in. You don't have to have a big personality. You don't have to. But within you lies the potential for you to be something that you deservedly should be and that matters to you in whatever way, shape, or form. So if nothing's preventing you from doing that, then who's preventing you from getting there?
Yeah. And the thing that, just comes to mind for me when you talk about having this big goal, you have to think about it. It doesn't all happen at once. So it's piece by piece. And, people say, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And that's how you get to your goals, one step at a time. So even though you have this big, huge goal in front of you, it's not that you're going to have to do everything to get to that one goal. You have to do these little baby steps that will ultimately put the whole piece together.
Amen.
So,
amen. But
think of it that way.
The reflection is important, as painful as it may be. And this is a really great time of year to do it because it's quiet. And find some space. No electronic devices, no people around, no conversations, just you. And I know sometimes that's scary because it's you by yourself. Well, it would be scary if you were me, but
You're never alone.
I have many voices talking, multiple personalities. Anyway, but I want you to have that sense of just peace. And there is a greater sense of peace on the other side of this. But whatever is preventing it or precluding you from getting to that place is well worth facing. I was also telling Tori in the reflection piece that we are, if not the only mammal that runs toward fear or runs towards something that's scary. And you think about people who are first responders. I mean, the very first instinct should be when a fire is, get out and get away. Yet we run toward that. If you saw somebody who was in need, our sense, instead of running away from fear, is to go toward. We're not necessarily reflexively a fight or flight. We don't take flight. A lot is determined by fight.
Yeah.
Your child is crushed under a car. The car's on fire. You're going to go and grab that car and push it up so that your child gets out from underneath that car. Yeah. So because of that, we certainly have the capability and capacity to deal with things that might be uncomfortable. And as we talked about before in the reflection, on the other side of that is just a renewed sense of who you are and a greater sense of what you can do if you just face it and go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's jump into clarity. Okay, so first thing we want to talk about is course correction and adjustment. So once you've done the reflection and you've identified what those things are, you can, course correct as you go. You can identify trip hazards and see where you might get tripped up. If there's habits that you need to break and you're putting yourself in the situation where that habit might be triggered, then you know how to adjust that and course correct moving forward.
You know, it's funny because people have a sense that it's kind of like you're on a map and the road map is before you. I know some of you don't even know what a road map is. Bear with me. GPS goes out and you're looking at it and you're thinking, what in the world, where am I? How can I get there? I've lost my sense. I had it before. It went out. All circuits are busy. I lost the road map. It went out the window. Whatever the case may be. So once you've reflected, you already naturally have in place a sense of course correction. Because wherever you were headed, based on where you had that sense of who you were and what was keeping you or preventing you from going where you were going, has now made that whole destination a different destination, right? Yeah. So you naturally have the inclination and instinct that the course correction is going to be something that is new to you. And you will have to, just like Tori said, you might have to stop and ask for directions. Yeah. You might have to get a greater sense of where you are because now this is all new to you. Yeah. So course correction should be embraced. Mm-hmm. Not like, oh God, to think that I've got to just now figure out how in the world to get to grandma's house or whatever.
Or like you've made a mistake and you have to correct it. It's not a mistake. It's just a reevaluation.
Mm-hmm. You don't have all of those little spots that say, nearest places to eat. You know, it's like, this is my sense of where I'm going to be. But at any point or time, you can stop and ask for directions. Those people or those places are represented by those who will support you in the correction of your course. Yes. Make sense? Yeah. So be sure that you're looking for those and earmark those as you're going along. And those adjustments are necessary. All of us have that. All of us have a sense of having made adjustments in our life. 2 years ago, would I have expected somebody to say, you have cancer and you're going to have chemo and radiation and surgery? Well, I wasn't prepared for that. So the same thing applies. We are capable of handling that when it comes its way. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of adjustments that you've had to make in your course already. So give yourself enough credit that you will be able to adjust accordingly. Yeah. Okay? And don't be your own worst critic. You got to be your biggest fan.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about fear?
Yeah. So people are always false evidence appearing real. So again, back to the thing about running toward fear. I think fear has to be the minute that you sense that fear is coming on, or you have a greater sense that you're fearful of something. For every action, a reaction. So immediately respond to whatever it is that you fear, because it has a tendency to manifest and grow over time. Have you ever noticed that when you're talking to someone and they're talking about their fears, or they're not talking about their fears, and you sense that they're really troubled by something, and you think to yourself, wow, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they don't like me. I love how people personalize. It's like always about you. Oh, they don't like me, or they don't like what I'm wearing. Maybe what I said.
Not about you.
Never about you. Good God. I love that because I always say to people, okay, enough about me. What do you think about me? It's that kind of attitude that gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
But that fear is, again, as soon as you react to it, you have diminished it. And you also recognize that other people experience it. Our greatest story is a friend of ours who has had a really, really difficult childhood. I mean, if you could think about everything that you could possibly think could happen within a childhood, really not, in a sense, not having a childhood, came to a group meeting that we'd had, and we were a gathering that we had, and we started talking about things, and somehow or another I sensed that something was wrong. I kind of had this weird ability, and I asked him, I said, so what's going on with you? I mean, I sense that something's going on. And then he proceeded to say, I'm just having a really difficult day. It was I think it earmarked a day that happened, something had happened a year before or something,
Family member,
right?
I think it was, yeah.
So it brought about all these things. I will be darned if he did not then go into this whole situation. And I was telling Tori before we started this, I said, did you remember how it almost seemed like the fear that had overcome him, shrouded him in the sense of almost being immobilized, started from his feet and made its way up through his body to the point where his coloring changed, his whole persona changed, his demeanor changed, his attitude changed, and then the very last thing he verbalized before all of it had come out and we're looking at him, watching him just manifest into something else completely different. He looked at us and he goes, that's not really that bad. I'm starting to think that. And I thought, because you haven't had that experience alone, but when it's you dealing with it, you feel alone, and dealing with that and trying to fight that or fend that off is not only tiring, but overwhelming.
Yeah, and when you keep that fear inside, or you hold on to these thoughts and feelings that aren't positive for you, they always seem worse inside. And then once you verbalize it or talk it out, it gives away the power of that fear, and it allows the fear to just kind of go away. And when you think back, you're like, gosh, I really had a worse outcome in my mind, but now that I've said it out loud and I've talked to, a friend or whatever it may be, it's not that bad.
It's not.
I can take care of this.
It's never that bad. No, I don't care what it is. Because when you were little, whatever you were scared of then, you're not scared of now. I couldn't watch The Exorcist for a while, but I watch it now. And I don't watch it a lot, but I mean, I watch it now. But just think of things that really scared you, and then you're thinking, wow, if I've given it perspective, if I've given it time, if I've given it distance, if I've given it where I am in my life right now, it does not have near the hold on me and the power over me that it did then. So darn well you can overcome fear to whatever degree it is in your life. Just don't allow it to jump way ahead, because there's a lot of work to be done naturally to get on top of that fear.
Yeah.
Make sense?
I agree.
There you go. There's fear. I wanted to read. I wanted to say, but fear's greatest ally is what Tori talked about, is isolation. The nemesis of fear is sharing, because the minute you share, it comes out. And then the quote, which is one of my favorite quotes, of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are our own fears. And I totally agree with that. Big one. Okay. Next.
Accountability. So we've talked about clarity. Now we're talking about, a subset of that, which is accountability, and how you start to put plans in place to hold yourself accountable, what those goals are, setting goals for yourself, and, make them attainable goals. Don't make them huge, audacious goals that you feel you have to achieve, by next week.
Exactly. And accountability is, I always say, it's not a penance. It's like somebody holding your hand through the haunted house.
Yeah.
It's like somebody who says it's going to be okay. It's about somebody who says, yes, but look what you did. That's what accountability is. You need that on your side in order to get over those things that have prevented you from getting to that place. Because you have visited this many times. You and I both know it. Tori and I know it. We all have done that, where we have run into somebody or run into a situation or go, I don't know what it is about this, but I don't like it, and I'm going the other way.
This feels familiar.
Yes! You look at somebody and you're talking to them, which is really hard, and you all know it, and you go, God, they remind me of somebody, and I don't know who that is, and then you look and go, oh my God.
Yeah.
You get home, and you realize, oh, it was that person that just was awful to me and was a problem in my life, or really brought me down, or prevented me from feeling my very best, didn't celebrate me, tried to put me in my place. No, baby doesn't belong in the corner. You don't belong in the corner either, but you know that it's there. So accountability is the hand-holding. Accountability is the cheerleader. Accountability is the person and the sense that you can do this.
Yeah. And, that person who is going to be your accountability partner is going to help you see that vision. So you verbalize to them what your goals and what your vision is, and then they help you to remind you when you get to a point where you kind of, lose sight of, being able to attain that goal. That person's going to bring you right back to it and, hold you accountable.
Goals are huge. And I know people get so sick and tired because they think, oh God, you always put these goals on the beginning of the year. Okay, so not goals. So things that you know that have prevented you from getting to where you want to be. And there's usually one big one that is followed by a trickle-down effect of a whole bunch of others, whatever that is. I no longer want to be an addict. I no longer want to be unhealthy. I no longer want to be in debt. I no longer want to have poor relationships. I no longer don't want to have a greater sense of who I am. Whatever that is, the trickle-down are all of the other little pieces that come in and now play a role in that. And you can't see, you think, oh, I've got all these things going. No. Usually comes down to one thing. Yeah. And that's what these goals are able to do. So here's the thing. Don't see it as a goal. Yeah. Just see it as a monster that you're going to conquer. You're David, that's your Goliath. Okay? Take the slingshot, because the slingshot slayed the dragon. Oh my God. Not a dragon. The giant. Thank you, Kyle. Dragons. I don't even know where I am. Isn't it a Bible thing? Oh yeah, now I'm really going to hell. So that's the point. You can slay them. You can take them down with just the most, what seems to be the most insurmountable effort, but it really does make a difference, and it gets larger and larger, and the effect gets larger and larger, and the impact larger and larger, and the byproduct larger and larger, and the fear and what prevented you gets smaller and smaller and smaller. That's the huge thing. So goals, or again, identifying your Goliath.
Yeah. And in order to do that, Kyle always talks about this journaling, and not only setting those goals, but writing down what you do on a daily basis, what those goals are. And that is not to rehash, days that you didn't do so well or where you weren't so successful. It's a measure for you. It's a way for you to look back and see what you've accomplished, how far you've come. And, we kind of talk about this a lot, journaling. Sometimes journaling may be hard for certain people. I know for me, having 2 little ones, it's hard to find time at the end of the day or the beginning of the day to sit down for, 10 minutes by myself, because I'm never by myself. So it's like having to find new ways to journal, whether that's an audio journal. Kyle and I were just talking about utilizing this new app called Voxer, and using Voxer as kind of like an audio journal to send to your accountability partner. And you can take quick voice memos. You can even you could text. You can take pictures. You can do all kinds of stuff. But whatever way that you can document, do it. That's something that you have the ability to.
Huge.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. A priority. I have to eat. I have to sleep. I have to have a roof over my head. I have to, all of the have-tos. If you approach journaling, or at least acknowledging your progress, as great a priority as eating, sleeping, loving, doing whatever the things are that make us all pretty human and that are necessary for our existence, then you would realize how essential it is to your growth, and ultimately for you to achieve the goals and the things that you want to do. It is that impactful. I revisit. I told you, it's not a Dear Diary thing. You don't have to do. God, Jesus, that would be awful. But you would.
I saw little Johnny. He's so cute today. You can get a lock on your journal.
If I had mine back from grade, it would just be frightening. It just would be frightening. But it would be frightening. I won't pull it out either. I won't do any of that. Yeah, we get really slow, and then it's like, oh, well, let me give you an excerpt from my 3rd grade journal. Isn't that my diary? Dear Diary, today. Oh my gosh. So, but
funny, though.
Beyond funny for those of you who knew me in 3rd grade and who tell me that I haven't changed since 3rd grade or 4th grade. That's frightening too. So I guess there's really not anything that you don't already know about me. There you go. But honestly, we want you to have as much fun with it as you can and make it your own. Do not do the Dear Diary format. Do not do what would not be compelling enough for you to feel like, wow, in a week's time frame, look what I did on a daily basis, implementing new routines and rituals. We are ritual by nature as humans. We like rituals. Don't you have those little things where you put your slippers, what you do when you get home, how you eat your breakfast, how you, I won't go into a whole bunch of other things, but whatever you do that you do all the time is because it's comfort.
Yeah.
And comfort comes from that as well, because then you're able to measure, wow, I found that I really got a lot of joy out of X.
Right.
And that's essential for me moving forward.
Yep.
Okay?
So.
And then I wanted to say on the vision, whenever you have a vision, there's a systematic approach with regard to that. You need to identify what the vision is. You need to implement immediately. You need to determine an outcome or a result. And then you need to tweak, because you're going to end up having that going forward. So whatever your vision or goal or whatever is, remember, you need to identify it. You need to implement whatever that is in terms of practice or what you're going to do in order to achieve that. You need to determine what that outcome or result is going to be. And then you need to tweak and then repeat, because that's what's going to happen. So don't lose sight of that and remember that particular cycle. Is that the best way to say that?
Yeah.
And then identifying your mission, your outline, what is missing, the steps are all part of that as well. And then the action. And then you want to read?
Yeah, so great quote. Accountability is not penance. It is established a discipline that then becomes.
That then becomes who you are, that then becomes what you need to do. Listen, it becomes just common practice, definitely. Okay, partnerships.
Yes.
This is huge. This is really huge. And let me tell you why this is huge. This is huge because more oftentimes than not, we don't identify the proper people as it relates to what it is that we need to achieve. So you find somebody who is weaker and does not stretch you, somebody who makes it easier for you to fall back on bad behavior, someone who is not what you necessarily want to emulate, somebody who will not hold your feet to the fire to make sure you go through this. It's like revisiting the worst movie you've ever seen, and you're just playing it over and over again. You think, I don't want to watch that anymore. That's exactly how you need to go about wherever you are in your life. I can't stand that movie. If I see it one more time, I'm done. I'm just done. Okay.
I can relate.
That's when you have children, you definitely can relate. My poor daughter's probably going, oh, Mom, please don't talk about the movies that I watched when I was a kid. Okay, I won't. But that's important. So identify what it is that you want to work on. Identify the trait that person has that you want to emulate. And then, of course, trust is essential. There is one thing in my life that I cannot stand being, and that's vulnerable. My dad used to tell me, never show a weakness. Now, everybody that I meet goes, I'm not the opponent. So I've got to get over that. But the one thing that held me through and helps me through a lot of things is that very mindset. But that cripples you in other things when it comes to improvement, because vulnerability is a shared experience.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is something that allows somebody to say, I want to help you, because the instinct of most people is,
Good.
I want to help.
Yeah.
I want to see you do well.
Yeah.
And those that don't, you don't want around you. So
Absolutely.
Trust and vulnerability is huge. Did you want to add?
It's just that, when you're picking somebody to hold you accountable, to be that partner along this journey, trust is the most important thing, because you are going to fall. You are going to have to be vulnerable. You are going to have tears. You are going to get angry. And when that happens, you don't want to look at that partner accountability person and see something that makes you fearful or brings on an emotion that's not helpful towards your goal. So you have to be able to trust them that you can be who you are, you can be vulnerable with this person, and they have your best interest at heart.
My family's in real estate. I think a lot of you know out in the audience as well. I'm a second generation realtor in addition to the business that I have, but one of the fundamental principles of real estate is you don't want to be the most expensive house on the street. You don't want to be the best house on the street. So you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, as Tori talks about a lot. You want to surround yourself with people who are greater, that only elevate your game, that only bring you up.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid of that. I would rather surround myself with a whole bunch of people who are far smarter than I, and I did that in school. And I was always so impressed with the fact that they were so passionate about what they shared that I could glean something from that. And that only makes you better as a person.
You just elevate to their level.
And don't think it's not achievable.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there saying to yourself, I want to go finish my degree. I want to go, I have no idea what that could be. I want to get my master's.
About a dropout.
Exactly. I want to get my doctorate. I want to teach, I don't know, English as a second language.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you're thinking about, and I'm trying to think of a whole host of them, but you have them running through your head because I'm saying this right now. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and do that, but surround yourself with people who make you stretch, who make you just try a little bit harder. You have found that to be the case, that they've always made you better. But those around you who tried to pull you down or were less than, made you less than. And that's just not okay.
No.
Not moving forward. No. Okay. So have a plan and a purpose in your mind and on your plate. You've done the work from reflection. You've given some clarity to what you're doing. You've decided that you've identified what it is. You're going to implement it. You want to know the outcome and the result, and you will tweak accordingly. But the plan and the purpose is your why.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Because if you don't have that why, it's not going to take you through. And I know everybody says you got to have a burning hot why. It doesn't have to be burning and it doesn't have to be hot. It just has to be there to say, okay, when I feel like, why am I doing this? What was, when you kind of feel like, I'm getting off course again? No. I know why it is. I've got it. And most oftentimes for a lot of people, it's their family, or it's their children, or it's their parents, or it's because you wanted to prove something to somebody. And it can be as insignificant as that in what you think as it compares to the other things that I said, but it's significant enough to you. So it doesn't matter that you think, oh, maybe this isn't. No, it's your why. Because you have a plan and because you have a purpose, and now we're focused on accountability, you need to then determine, because you need to make sure that somebody who is significant enough for you to be vulnerable with, significant enough for you to trust, significant enough for you to put in the hands of them what it is that you're trying to achieve, you have to be conscious of their time. You have to be conscious of the format. You have to be conscious of when you schedule it. This is a priority thing, just like journaling is. Every week we're going to meet at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, or we're going to talk on the phone, or we're going to Voxer, or we're going to whatever the case may be.
Sounds like boxer.
I know, We're going to box. I kind of like, we're going to box. I'm going to knock the hell out of you. You're going to knock the hell out of me. It's going to be great. So I just whatever it is, but that is an appointment that you must keep with yourself, because that's part of the development. You don't want to get off course. They're the ones that are that course corrector, which is huge. And then prioritize it, like we've said before. Priority. Okay. The quote, coming together is the beginning. Staying together is progress. And working together is success. So remember that working together is what will get you to that next level.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about on our next episode is vision. So we're going to take these two topics, reflection and clarity, all the work that you've done through these, and now we're going to put that plan in place and get the vision in line and identify, how you can achieve your goals.
Essential, but do the work. This is going to be something that will change your entire life. I guarantee it. Mm-hmm. That part I can guarantee. And we would love to hear as a result of what you're doing and the effort you're putting into it, because more oftentimes than not, the majority of you are not going to do this. And you and I both know that. Why don't you be that minority? Why don't you be that point and time in your life where you say, you know what? The rest of my life is the best of my life. And that's how I feel. So you have that ability to do that as well. And that's what we would want for you.
Yeah, we want to be a part of your journey. And, if you need an accountability partner, these guys, we're great.
Totally. Oh my God.
Kyle will kick your ass, and I will hold your hand.
Or that she's going to say, I will hold you down. Well, she kicks it. It might be that too. If you need that, we'll will do that too.
It depends on the situation.
But just know that we are, big fans of this. And at any point or time, we also believe that this is an individual experience.
Yeah.
We do not want a carbon copy for everyone as it relates to your journey.
Yeah.
So there could be points and times during the course of this that you find yourself saying, wow, I kind of, we can help you navigate so that it feels genuine and authentic to who you are. Because if it doesn't, and you don't go about it in that way, you won't do it.
And
no way.
One thing that I want to say and just bring to light is we're not perfect. I'm working on stuff. Kyle is semi-perfect.
Not even close.
We're working on these things too. And, we talk about these things because it's things that mean so much to us and that we work on a daily basis. And we want to share that with you to help, anyone else who's in this position or place and wanting for growth and more. So that's our motivation. We just come from a place of service.
Truly. I mean, I just recently went to a celebration of life. My babysitter was there. Can you imagine that poor woman? And she and I were talking, and she said, I can always remember that your dad, when I would come in to babysit, would always say, don't worry about the boys. They're just going to go over and play grab ass and wrestle and do whatever. But keep an eye on that one. And pointed to me. Because you know what? My greatest accountability partner was my father, because he could call me on my stuff. Yeah. He said, nobody knows you better than I do. And you want somebody who does that, who calls you on that stuff, who says no. And it might be unpleasant and it might make you feel like, God, I could just, and I would leave there going, oh, I just want to kick his butt. But he was absolutely right in every way, shape, and form. Listen, I am absolutely not perfect. Talk about you on a daily basis. Mine's hourly. I have to watch myself hourly. So, and I don't even have handlers or medication or anything around me. But I do know what is important, and I do want those people who will call me on my stuff, because that's where I'm going to get, and it is going to make me my very best. Yeah. And even though it feels painful, they really do want what's best for you, especially if they're doing that for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm done.
Love it. All right. So we'll talk to you on the next episode when we're talking about the final part, which is vision.
Ooh, that's exciting too.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.